I wanted people to push me outside of my comfort zone every day. And I thought this was gonna be the absolute best platform to do that. These guys, the stories I heard after Buds, it just gets harder. And I didn't see it that way. Buds breaks people down to the point where you don't want to be broken down again like that. To me, that was exactly the exact starting point for my journey in life. That was the starting point for me. For a lot of people, it's the finish line. And I didn't see it that way for me. So that's where I started becoming uncommon amongst uncommon people, is where I started realizing that you put people on a pedestal that you shouldn't. That you got to get in there yourself and examine people, see what it's really about yourself. So once I got in there and realized, hey, these are just normal people. Yeah, they're a lot better than some. They're able to get through. I know a lot of people who can get through Navy SEAL training. But, there's a lot of mystique behind all that stuff. And as you start to go through and you start to break it open a little bit, a lot of hard guys, but, I wanted more. So being the only, I came up with the only. There's a lot of onlys out there. I was the only black in a lot of situations. And the only isn't about a color. There's a lot of, there's gays, there's lesbians, there's people who are white people who just feel like they're not wanted in society. That's the only. The only is feeling like you're not accepted in any society that you're in. Doesn't matter what color, creed, race, gender, doesn't matter. It's just that you are in this situation where you feel like you're being judged. You might be being judged. You feel awkward. It's an awkward feeling when you walk in a room and you're like, oh my God, like I'm the only. And that comes with a lot of people. And that's where the only really came from, because I didn't want to make it like a black situation. I want this is about people. You are your own hero. You are the hero of this book. So I want it to be, what's a word that can make people feel like this resonates with me? That's only. It's not about, it was about black or about white or about being Jewish or Christian or whatever. So that's where it comes from, man. It's about ownership of a lot of people feel like no one understands what I'm going through right now. And that's the only. Oh, yes, the only is a very powerful thing for me. And there's a lot of times in my life that I chose the only on purpose, just to see how I would come out the other end of it. What's funny about failure is we're afraid to fail a lot of times because we're afraid to get those people telling us that we're not good, that we shouldn't try again. Mm-hmm. This is how I look at it. First of all, those people are going to be there. And 99.9% of those people who are in your ear after you fail haven't even tried what you're attempting to do. That's first off, but they have a voice. So that voice needs to be, we're done. You don't need to talk to me anymore. Like when I failed the pull-up record, I was going for 4,020 pull-ups. And I failed it twice before I finally got it the third time. I had so many people telling me, you can't do it. And I was like, how many pull-ups have you done in your life? So that's the first thing. Look at who's talking to you negatively first. And failure is the only way to grow. The only way to grow for me. Everything I've ever succeeded in, 3 hell weeks. Everything, Ranger School, everything I've ever failed, I failed miserably so many times. But what you do with that failure is you go back, you learn from it. And not just learn from it, I call it the live autopsy. Where you get all this stuff, you get a scratched piece of paper, and you start writing down, don't even acknowledge the fact that you failed. You're looking at it almost like the daggone light bulb. Like, okay, this went wrong, that went wrong, that went wrong. And then you go back into it. All failure is a tool for success. It shows you how to get there if you're willing to stay in the fight. That's the hard part, though. After failure, all these voices start to say, no, we're not good enough, we're not good enough, we're not good enough. No, we haven't tried enough. And that is so true. We just haven't tried enough. But yeah, without failure, I wouldn't be who I am today.
So what's your excuse? Is it too cold where you live? Is it too hot where you live? Does it rain too much? Now it's time for some real talk. Maybe you're the only black person applying for a job. Maybe you're the only female. Maybe you're the only gay person. Maybe that's in your head. Maybe that's your excuse for not being better. Life's a real big picture. When I was young, all those things got in my head. Black, not smart enough, single mom, all that own space in my head. If you're allowing people and things and situations throwing space in your head, you're losing. Last thing, life's one big head game. You play with yourself. If you lose, it's because you allow life to get in your head. Stay hard.
Most of us live our entire lives avoiding failure. It's funny. I walk around, people come to me and they say, man, you're that Navy SEAL, you went through Ranger School, you were, Air Force TAC P, you did the pull-up record. The funny thing about it that I think about is this. They know that part of me. This is the part I know about myself. I failed the ASVAB test to get in the military 3 times. In the Air Force, failed at pararescue. In the SEALs, it took me 3 times to get through Navy SEAL training. The pull-up record took me 3 times. This is what I know about me. So what I'm saying is this. You can't live your life being afraid to fail. All those failures made me the success in the day. Stay hard. Stay in the fight.
What statement are you making? The psychology of savagery. I wasn't the best runner, but what I did was I found the work schedules out of my competition, and I made sure they saw me running day and night. I tried to get in their heads. I got a video the other day of this UFC fighter, Ferguson. This weighs in, and the UFC is canceled. He wasn't just weighing in. He was getting the head of his components. What he did was this. He wanted you to remember his hands and elbows slice it up. Remember this. Stay hard at all times. Savagery. So I get an email from Bill. Bill's a 30-year-old who used to be real motivated. And somehow he lost his motivation. He wants to know how he can get it back. Well, Bill, you suffer from what a lot of guys suffer from nowadays. It's called chestnut syndrome. As a boy, your nuts fall. But what happens in life is that we think they stay down there. If you don't handle self-doubt, insecurities, imperfections, jealousy, all these things, allow people to bully you, your nuts start to retract back up. Insecurities end up here, self-doubt, all this shit, before you know it, in your chest. You end up with chestnut syndrome. How you fix chestnut syndrome is you gotta man up. Hit your chest, send the signal to your mind that you're gonna man up, and then they fall back in your sack. Once they fall back in your sack, you sack it up. Stay hard.
I'm gonna break you, and while you're the most broken you've been in your entire life, your mind is now saying, I still have almost 100 hours left of training, and I'm the most broken I've been mentally and physically in my life. How am I gonna do this?